What's going on, guys? Billy Pinckney here alongside New York Mets pitcher Adam Oller. Adam, how's it going?
Going well, man. Going well. Just, off season.
Well, it's been quite the offseason, but let's take it back to the beginning of your career with three different organizations, the Pirates, the Giants, and then the Mets. Starting off with the Pirates, drafted by them. Can you tell me about your experience with the Pirates organization? You've been there the most out of all three organizations.
Yeah. It's not really any surprise to a lot of people, but I didn't necessarily enjoy my time with them. I love the coaches that I had. I love the teammates and friends that I made with that team, and still keep in touch with a good bit of them. But yeah, kind of that last season with them was rough for me. Get the promotion and then struggled for a while. So I guess nothing on them for getting released and all that, but struggled with them for a little while and then kind of turned it around at the end. And fortunately, it wasn't enough, and business decision is what it is. But I like the coaches, like the players and stuff like that. Just, wasn't necessarily a good fit for me. I know, they have a whole new training staff, or a whole new, like, basically front office and stuff like that. And I think they're, just from guys that I've talked to in that organization, they're definitely going in the right direction. They said it's 9 day different than when I was there. But I don't hold any ill will towards them by any means. I mean, I know I got released by them, and people would assume that, I hate them because I got released, but it's part of baseball. It's part of any job. I mean, I got fired. It is what it is, and move on to the next. And hopefully, luckily, I ended up getting signed, but, kind of was what it was.
I did hear that from quite a few players about the Pirates organization back then. I guess things have hopefully changed for the better. But I did speak to you back in 2018 about indie ball. It's pretty funny. After seeing everything you've been able to do, it's pretty special. But no, we spoke about playing here in indie ball. What can you tell me about your experience playing in indie ball in the Frontier League during that season in 2019?
It's funny you ask that. So going into independent ball, you have that stigma about, like, oh, it's brutal. It's it's the grind. Like, you just got to grind through everything. I kind of had a different outlook on it. And granted, I did really well, but at the end of the day, like, even if I hadn't done well, I had fun, dude. Like, I had an absolute blast with them. I played with some great dudes, great teammates. Great coaching staff. I can't say enough about, like, I went into it obviously thinking, the worst. And it was one of the, aside from last season, it was probably one of my most, like, fun, I guess, seasons that I've had. Granted, again, I was doing really well, but it was fun to go to the park. It was fun to hang out with the guys. There was no pressure. Because I kind of went into that thing, like, I went into indie ball as, like, not necessarily as a route to get signed. I did it more as, like, a victory lap per se. Like, I was kind of wanting to, with the year that I had prior, getting released, not having fun, wanting to retire 3 different times during that season, like, seriously retire, like, talking to my family about it. I didn't want to end, my career on a sour note. So I went into that, and I was just like, you know what, like, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna enjoy my last year. I'm gonna treat baseball as, like, a game, not as a job. And lo and behold, I end up doing really well because, as a lot of guys will tell you, the more you don't stress, the more you have fun, and the more you enjoy the game, the better you tend to do. So I enjoyed it thoroughly, dude. Like, I had a blast there. Chicago's a fun city, so it was all in all a great spot. I think I made 4 starts roughly, and ended up getting signed that last start by the Giants, and I love the Giants too. I can't say enough about them. I thoroughly enjoyed them too. But it was one of those things that for all the guys out there that are like iffy on independent ball, because I've done international ball too now. Played in Australia. Don't be. I mean, they're there for a reason, and it's going to be what you make it, basically. And so if you go into it with a good attitude and you have fun with it, it's a great time. And I mean, believe it or not, I made more money in independent ball than I did in rookie ball. So it's another plus. But yeah, I loved it, and 10 out of 10, I would go back and do it again. Obviously, it worked out for me, but I would still, even if it didn't, I would still do it again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players when they go to indie ball, they have that sort of bitter taste in their mouth, about where their careers are at, and a lot of times they get released, or they're free agents who didn't get signed, even though they hoped they would. And after a little bit of time, they start to, feel like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun, and it's a lot of players' most fun part of playing professional baseball in their career. Have there been any players who reached out to you asking about that route and if it's worth it?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. The place I train out here in Houston, it's not just affiliated guys. Like, we have international and independent ball guys as well, and that's kind of been one thing that wasn't what I was expecting coming out of like the where I'm at in my career. That wasn't like, not necessarily a mentor by any means, but that was not something I was expecting. But now, I get a lot of guys that will message me via Instagram, text message me, teammates of mine, old teammates, and guys in here that they're kind of like I'm like a success story. So they message me and they're like, was it worth it? Like, should I consider it? Should I do it? Should I hang it up? Should I, like, what did you do? Like, what was your mindset going into it? And 100%, like, my thing is, if you're a guy that's on the fence, like you're iffy about your career, then you're probably not going to have your heart in it. Because at the end of the day, independent ball is, even affiliated ball in the lower levels, it's a grind. It's not for the it's not for the weak stomachs by any means. Like, you're grinding through everything. So that's kind of one of those things that, like, if you really want to keep going and you really want to, like, you don't think you're done and you're not where you want to be at, absolutely you should do it. Because yeah, it was a success story, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys that, they play in indie ball, international ball for several years, and it may not be glamorous, but you get to play, you get to do what you want to do. And I tell every guy here, I'm like, listen, like, this is the mindset I had going into it was, this is my last year. So I'm going to go into it with a good attitude. I'm going to have fun, and I want to end my career on a good note. Or, I still have more to prove to myself. So I want to see, and I want to give myself a chance to do that. And with that type of attitude, you're going to give everything you have going into it. And more often than not, you're going to end up doing well. And, like, yeah, there are some circumstances where it's just out of your control. Luckily, at that time I was doing well and the Giants had a need. So it was one of those things where it worked out. But I've got buddies of mine that, they played affiliated, and then they got released and they went and played indie ball. And, they've been playing indie ball for 2-3 years, or international ball or whatever. And it's just not working yet. And it happens. It's part of the game. But at the end of the day, at least, like, you're in control of what you're doing. You're in control of your career. If you want to end it, you can end it. If you want to keep playing, you can keep playing. Like, there's always a niche out there for somebody.
Right. Yeah, and some play a few extra years too because they want to have peace with themselves, knowing that, hey, I gave it my all, and they're not regretting anything and to hang up the cleats too early. So
exactly.
And you mentioned too Australia. What can you tell me about playing there, and how would you rate the competition compared to here in the States?
Oh man, dude, I loved Australia. That was I can't say enough about the people I played with over there, the people I met over there, just the hospitality in general over there is just, I mean, plus on top of that, like for me, Australia was a place that I had always wanted to go and vacation to at some point in my life. So for the Mets to give me an opportunity to go play there and get paid to play there, like that was to me, that was like, oh, that's a win-win. Like, absolutely, I'm going to do it. And especially since like that 2020 season, like we weren't playing anyways. So that gave me an opportunity to not just sit around and throw bullpens all the time, but like actually get some competition. And I will say I don't know how Australia, like the ABL ranks in international leagues. I know obviously like Japan and the like Dominican leagues are probably a little bit more competitive, but that year per se with the quarantine and with us not playing, it was a lot better competition than normal from what I've understood. But competition aside, at the end of the day, I'm still getting my work in. I'm still facing hitters. I'm still facing, affiliated guys as well as, ABL guys that have been playing in that league for 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Yeah. So it was an absolute blast. And then on top of that, I mean, getting to spend 3.5 months in Australia and getting paid to be there, like it was, I mean, I saw every inch of New South Wales that you can see. And I have recommended to several of the guys here that, if you get that opportunity, like I know it's not one of the most high paying international leagues, but it's one of those things that where it's like, if I had gotten an opportunity to do it again and I wasn't at the amount of innings that I had been at, I would have seriously considered it just from the standpoint of like getting to go over there, experiencing their culture, experiencing the atmosphere, everything. Like, nicest people you'll ever meet. It's kind of weird because like baseball's not super huge over there, but the ones that do watch baseball absolutely love it. So it's fun, and I think I was fairly popular over there with the Australians for like the just being, I guess, Southern, which I don't really feel like I have that much of an accent, but I guess I did over there. But no, they absolutely loved it, and I loved it too. I highly, highly, highly recommend to anybody out there that has a chance to go play there to do it.
That's awesome. Well, you briefly mentioned the Mets. We have to talk about your experience here with the Mets. I mean, it was a breakout year for you this past year, and I mean, AA, AAA, and then eventually being added to the 40-man roster. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment in 1 year. Can you take me through the beginning of the year when you first got signed by them, and then that great year that you had?
Yeah. So yeah, I ended up. It's kind of funny. Like I got Rule 5 to them in that 2020 Rule 5 draft. And I'll tell you the story that I've told a lot of people, but it was funny because like obviously that year in 2019 I was in independent ball and I got signed and I was 25, I think 25 at the time, and I got sent to low A for the year, which I don't know if you know, but like 25 in low A, that's like your grandpa. And so I was there the whole year, and at the end of the season, I was just like, I remember talking to one of our pitching coaches down there. I was like, hey, like, am I a field guy? Like, am I getting released at the end of this, or what's going on? And he goes, no, like, we like you a lot. I was like, oh, okay, so like I have a job? And he goes, yeah. I was like, okay, awesome. And then fast forward to, I can't remember, it was like December, I think, is the Rule 5 draft, or November, December, somewhere in there. But I was substitute teaching as an off-season job at the high school that I went to here in Houston. And I was teaching a class, and I end up, my phone's just going off. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I look at my phone, I'm in class, I look at my phone, and I've just got text messages and Snapchats, Twitter, everything. And one of my like old teammates with the Pirates had messaged me, and he was like, hey, if the rumors are true, congrats. And like I texted him back and I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you got Rule 5. I was like, wait, what? And I step out, look at my phone, Twitter's just blown up, like Rule 5 draft, etc. And I get a call from like the Giants farm director, and he was like, like, thanks for everything, yada yada yada. You got Rule 5. And I remember sitting there, and I was like, why? Like, not that I don't think like I'm good, but like why? Like, I was in independent ball last year, and he was just like, he was telling me, he's like, you need to have more confidence in yourself. Like, we saw something. Apparently the Mets did as well. And I was sitting there, I was like, dude, I didn't even know the Rule 5 was today. And he was like, yeah, no, it was. It just happened. I was like, oh, okay, like, sick. And talked to the Mets. I went in and I called my parents. I was like, apparently I just got Rule 5, like, picked in Rule 5. And they were like, what is that? And I was like, it's like a redraft, basically. And they're like, oh, sick. Who are you with? I was like, the Mets. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Now what? And I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I have no idea. And, obviously, we went through all that stuff. And then 2020 happens and don't get to play. And then they send me to Australia, which was, again, like I said, awesome. And then come back. And I was kind of in like that awkward, that like kind of limbo stage where it's like I got Rule 5 in the AAA phase, but like I didn't have a single inning in AA. And I was sitting there like 2021 spring training. So am I AAA? Am I AA? Like, I'm being realistic with myself. I know I don't have any AA innings. So they're like, no, you'll probably go to AA. And I was like, okay, like, that's understandable. I get that. Had a pretty good spring training. I think I only gave up like 1 or 2 hits in spring training. And I was like, oh, okay, like, great. And then, go to AA. I mean, you can look, I think like the first 3 or 4 starts, I didn't make it past like the 3rd inning. Just not it. Just walking guys all over the place, just not feeling great. And I had a conversation with our pitching coordinator at that time, guy named Ricky Meinhold. And I was like, hey, listen, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I know I have the stuff. I can't compete right now. And he was just like, literally throw the ball over the plate, just throw it over the plate. And we had a start where he had my catcher set up middle for the entire start. And like, obviously, I got hit a little bit, but I didn't walk anyone. I was over the plate. Next start, I started moving him around. And that was kind of when like things kind of turned around a little bit. Just started working on literally just throwing the ball over the plate and letting them swing, letting them get themselves out, setting up counts, stuff like that. And sure enough, learned how to pitch a little bit and figured out how to work stuff in when I was supposed to be working it in. And breaking ball came around, and one thing led to another. Just outings started stacking upon each other, and got to the point where like I was in, I think after like my 5th or 6th like solid AA start in a row, I asked our coordinator, I was like, dude, like, I gotta ask, like, well, what else I gotta do, like, to go to the next level? Like, I'm 26, I'm kind of hitting that point where it's either like sink or swim. And he was like, just get your walk percentage down to like, I think it was at like 9.2, down below 9. I was like, okay, next start, no walks, get it down to like 8 something. And then I'm like, all right, like, now what? And he goes, nothing, just keep doing you. And sure enough, like that very next start, have a pretty good start. I think it was against like the Red Sox AA team. Had a really good start and come in afterwards, and I'm just like, I just gotta keep doing my thing, not worry about it, and just keep doing it. And they that was the game that like the next day they promoted me, and that was a huge moment for me. I ended up getting in AAA, and then obviously did well first start in AAA, and then kind of kept stacking things. And the end of the year, it was just, I get the Pitcher of the Year award, which it's one of those things that like, for a guy like myself who like, I've never been a prospect, never been like a top, like, a top guy, it was kind of like a crazy moment. Like seriously, like out of the org, like really? And they're like, yeah, like no, I mean you've done really well, yada yada yada. And I was like, wow, like okay, maybe I actually do like have a chance. And then I kept stacking pretty good starts on each other, and then obviously at the end of the year, I was like, well, I'm either I'm hopefully protected. If not, then maybe the big league Rule 5 will happen. Like my luck in the Rule 5 has been pretty good. Like maybe it'll happen again. But my one of my coaches, he was like, I think like you'll be fine. And my agent was like, no, like I think you'll be protected, yada yada yada. And then we get to the final day of protection, and I'm sitting there by my phone, just like freaking out, just like, okay, like, am I gonna get protected? Am I not gonna get protected? Like, I think I will, but like, you never know. And I was with my mom, and then when I got that call, that was like a crazy moment for me, because just like the highs and lows, the roller coaster that I've done, to finally get like that like recognition, like you got it. Granted, obviously that's not where I want to be at. I want to be, in the big leagues, and I want to be not just a year guy, but like a career big league guy. But that was like the next step in the right direction. And so it was a crazy moment, and it was a very surreal moment. Just finally, after everything that happened throughout my career, like to be where I'm at now, as opposed to you go back 3 years. Just the timeline of the 3 years has been crazy, and then now it's obviously we're in a lockout, but hopefully it ends soon and we're back to work. But if not, just got to be ready, I guess.
It's a fantastic story. It's one of those indie ball success stories that coming to fruition here, and we've seen a lot more of those in recent years, which is great to see. But it seems like a lot of the success is driven too by the Mets coaching staffs in the minor leagues and the coordinators and everybody. What can you tell me about those guys and the ones who have helped you out on the pitching side?
Oh yeah, I mean the coaching staff that I've had, especially with the Mets, have been absolutely crucial. I mean, I can't speak enough. Like I loved being with the Giants as well, and I absolutely love the Mets. I've loved, they've been very. I guess the biggest thing about them that I liked has been they've been very like straightforward with me, because it's like it's one of those things that like it's your job, and I understand it's baseball, but like it is your job. So it's just like any other job. If you're trying to get a promotion, you're trying to get wherever you're trying to get, like you want to know, like, okay, I got to get this. And with other organizations, it's been like, just keep doing your thing. It's like, no, that doesn't help me. It'd be like, I need to know, like, what do I need to do? Like, okay, I need to have like 9 case printing, like that type, like give me something to work towards. And the Mets have done that. Like they're very straightforward. They're like, listen, like, you're not ready, or you're ready. You just are waiting for, your opportunity. And like, that's stuff that can actually help you. And then on top of that, I mean, I worked a good bit with, his name's DJ Carrasco. He was a pitching coach, AAA pitching coach of the Mets in like 2019 or 2020. And he kind of took me under his wing quite a bit. He's not with the Mets anymore, but he took me under his wing and worked on like a new changeup for me, worked on a cutter, and just kind of learning how to pitch and how to set guys up, because pitching in the lower levels and pitching in AAA and the big leagues are very different. And Ricky helped me out a lot mechanically, like just subtle mechanical flaws that I had that he helped me fix. And as soon as he helped me fix that, velo goes up, everything's a lot cleaner, everything's sharper. So they've done a lot for me, and they've invested a lot into like the analytics behind baseball, which I'm a big analytics person, but at the same time, I do believe you can get too into analytics. But I think they have an unbelievable balance on it, and they've done a good job with what they're doing with that. and they're obviously not right now with the lockout, but prior to that, they've been open phone. Like, you got a question, you got video, you got whatever, I can send it to anybody in the Mets org. They'll get back to me within the day. Like, hey, like, you're opening your hips too soon, or you're flying open, or whatever it is, and they'll get back to you right away. And that's in this line of work, like, that's crucial. Like, you need that, and they're smart. Like, they're smart. They know what they're doing. So that's been a huge help for me.
I spoke to Jake Reed, who's also with the Mets on the 40 man, and he was talking about the same thing, how the Mets have been great with the guys who help you guys out with analytics and all that. When it comes to analytics, how much knowledge did you have previously before the Mets organization? Because I could imagine the Pirates and Indie Ball weren't as involved, right?
Yeah. When I was with the Pirates, analytics wasn't a thing, or at least not that I know of. And then I went up to Driveline in 2018. That year I got released. And because it was kind of one of those things where it was like, I was 88, 92 my entire college career, entire like first half of pro. And then when I got to Bradenton and high, I like started popping 95. And I was like, oh, like, okay, well, I wonder, why? And I wonder what else is in there. So I went up to Driveline, did that. And they kind of taught me a good bit about analytics, how to read it, how to utilize it, because like, if you can understand it, it's one thing, but if you don't know how to utilize it, then it's like, what's the point of being able to even read it? So they kind of walked me through on, what tilt means, like what, the spin axis means, what vertical, horizontal break, like all of that. And I bought into it, and I started looking into it. So where every time I threw on Rapsodo or TrackMan, I could throw a pitch, see that, if I'm at 130, I need to get my hand more back on top of the ball to get to like 1 o'clock, because that's where like I'm most successful with a fastball. And the Mets have been big on that as well. Like, they've taken a lot into like the video and data analytics part of it. And, they work with you in season on that. Like, hey, you're sitting at 130, it's lowering your vertical break to, 14 or 15. You need to get back up to 1 o'clock, so you're back up to 20. And that's been a lot. But getting into the Mets, I would say I had a lot of knowledge on analytics, just because I was so bought into it in that 2018 year. And the Mets they're good at it, but in 2020, I think that was the first year that they started really getting into analytics. And now they're all over it. But that going into it, that was I would say I was pretty knowledgeable on it.
Do you happen to have a ball there to show us a few of your pitch grips?
I do. So for the fastball, I go here. And basically, I try to run my middle finger on the inside. It's not the greatest baseball, but there's a Rawlings logo right there. I try to run my middle finger on the inside of that Rawlings logo. And then cutter is just the same thing, just offset to where I'm on the inside on that lace.
Right. Are you releasing that cutter straight over the top of that cutter, the same as a fastball?
I'm releasing it now. So like, I'm releasing it more like here. So where it's coming off this way. I don't throw like a traditional cutter just because I can't. So I throw more of like a slider grip cutter, which it works for me. I know a lot of guys throw like actual offset four-seam fastballs to cutter, and I just can't do it. So I found what worked for me, and it works. And then the changeup, I go here to where I'm basically split here. And I'm running my index or my middle finger and my ring finger on the inside of that seam, to where it's almost like you got a one seam grip on the inside here. And then I just grip here and throw it like this with my hand as much to the side as I can to get that 3 o'clock spin. And that actually ended up being one of my best pitches this year. And then the breaking ball, which is a funky one, but again, it works for me. I throw mine here on the inside of the seam, and then at the bottom of the horseshoe with my thumb, and then I spike it. And so what's different about mine is I throw mine on the leather. So I know you always hear like good breaking balls spin at like 3,000 RPM. Mine spins at 1,800, 1,700 to 1,800, and it's more of like a knuckle than it is. It's more of a tumbling breaking ball than it is a high spin one. But it's different because I can throw it hard, and it just looks a lot different. And then the slider, again, a funky one. But so basically, I go top of the horseshoe with the middle finger on half the lace. Underneath, I'm death gripping that lace, and then I spike it. And I've never been able to throw a slider like doing this. It just never worked for me. So I gripped here and basically throw it like this and just pull straight down. And again, a good slider is supposed to be like around 28, 30,000. Mine's 1,800 to 2,000, but I can throw it really hard, and it's sharp and it's late, and it's different than what everyone else has seen as a hitter. So it's worked, but it's funny because like it's one of those things that like I've tried to show guys how to throw it, and a lot of guys aren't able to. And it's just one of those things that for me, like I said, I've never been able to throw like a real slider, and I've never been able to. Like I got hurt throwing a real curveball just because long story short, I cheated to get to it. Like I'd cup and I'd hurt myself doing it. So I had to find something because it's either you can't be a starting pitcher with a fastball and a changeup. Just can't. So I had to find something, and I ended up finding that, and it ended up working for me. But those are the ones that I throw. They're different, but everybody throws pitches differently, so it works.
Do you ever find it difficult to command the zone with having so many different pitches, especially some that are a little unorthodox?
Yes. So in the minor, in AA down, no, because it's the laces, big laces. I mean, you can throw a backup breaking ball. At least for me, I throw a backup breaking ball. It's still going to do what I want it to do. It's just not going to be in the spot. AAA, yes, because they're big league baseballs, and I found that what's weird is like for me, like my curveball or slurve, for instance, in AA down when I backed it up, like I said, it still broke a lot, but it would miss the spot. With the AAA big league ones, I would normally spin it at like 17, 1,800, like I said. If I threw a backup, it'd spin at like 500 or 800, which is like a knuckleball. And it would turn into, instead of breaking this way, it would be a splitter and break the other way, which in the grand scheme of things, when you think about it, it's like, oh, okay, well, it's probably still not getting hit that well. But like when you're telling a catcher, like, hey, I got a breaking ball coming here, and then you throw a splitter, you're not the biggest, like the catcher's not the biggest fan of you at that point. So I will say it did take a little bit of adjusting when I got to the AAA level, just working on like getting a consistency on it. And that was the hardest part, was just once I found the consistency, then it was like, okay, I'm fine. But it was manipulating grips to try to figure out what worked best for me and still keeping the same break and everything. And I will say, like, the breaking ball from AA to AAA, the break on it is different, but it still worked. It was just I had to figure out what was going to work for me at that point. But yeah, I mean, you can ask any pitcher; they'll tell you they might have one start, maybe two, and an entire season where everything is on. So the nice part about throwing 4 pitches, 5 technically, is I've got a lot to work with. So, if two's not working, I still got three. There were starts. Don't get me wrong. There were starts. I had 2 starts this year, one in AA, one in AAA, where not one, like my cutter is my worst pitch, and not one pitch was working except for the cutter. And you can't just be like, oh, well, nothing's working today, I can't throw, like I'm done. Like, you can't do that. You got to figure out how to get through it. And so, those were the grind games. Those were the ones where it's like, all right, like I got to grind out 5 innings and try to do my best to keep the game in at least somewhat close. So those definitely had a couple of those games this past year, but that's part of baseball. Like, you're not going to be perfect every time.
Yeah, it's wild how they have different balls for AA and AAA. I mean, that's pretty wild. They probably should have a uniform ball.
In the grand scheme of things, though, it makes sense because, like, you got to think, like, guys in AAA are going up and down between the big leagues. So you don't want like a minor league baseball in AAA, and then like that guy goes up to the big leagues and then he's got a whole new baseball, and then he goes down and he's got a whole new baseball, and then vice and so on and so on. So it's like the AAA level, it makes sense to have the same baseball as big league level. That way, at that point, it's like whatever you're throwing here works there, and vice versa. But I'll tell you right now, it's the make or break right there. When you get to AAA, and then you figure out like, oh, okay, like this doesn't work anymore. Now I gotta figure out how to throw something that does work, and that took 2 bullpens to figure out like, oh, okay, like this isn't gonna work anymore. I need to figure out something else to make it work. But that's the fun part about baseball is like you got to be able to adjust.
Yeah. You feel a lot of pitchers have that same issue where they get up to AAA and they got to really make that adjustment.
Oh yeah, I will say, like, it's weird because a lot of guys will say the biggest jump is from low A to high A, which yes and no. I mean, I will say hitters it is, but in my opinion, for pitchers, the biggest jump is AA to AAA because it's a whole new baseball, and even though it's not a huge difference, it is in the like grand scheme of things. It is like how you release it. There's a lot less forgiveness, and then on top of that, you're facing guys that have big league time, and it's like, okay, if I miss, like in AA, if you miss, yeah, you might give up a hit, but in AAA, you miss, the ball flies. I mean, it's a big league baseball, and it flies a lot further than a minor league one. So if you miss, more often than not, if it's 95 off the bat, you might be asking for a new one, and that's an adjustment. But it's part of it. If you don't make the adjustment, you're not going to be playing there for very long.
Well, Adam, I appreciate you hopping on, taking the time to chat for a little bit, and best of luck this season. Hopefully things get cleared up shortly, and we'll get back to baseball.
I sure hope so, but I appreciate you having me on, and best of luck with the rest of the podcast and everything like that, and I appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next time.
This is John Sterling, and you're watching Billy the Bat Boy's Corner.